Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the EOcafe. Today, amidst the storms, we're going to be talking about attracting and retaining talent, a subject that a lot of people have highlighted as being an issue that they face. And so we'll talk with Marion and Amanda, who you can see on your screen, about this topic. Just to firstly start off with a reminder for the EOcafe, please keep your microphones off unless I specifically ask you to join the conversation. But feel free to keep your cameras on. It's always good to see you, good to see people, and to stay in touch. And if you have questions, please pop them into the chat so that we can see them coming. And I'll, if possible, I shall ask you to join and put your question. But sometimes I may already have tackled the issues, or we'll talk around them. So that's basically the rules. Today I want to welcome both Marion Murphy and Amanda White to the EOcafe. We're looking at the challenge for companies to build their teams, and specifically how to attract the right talent and how to retain the right talent in the company, which is proving quite difficult these days. As usual, before I start to introduce the subject anymore, maybe I can just ask Marion and Amanda to tell us a bit about yourselves, how you've got to where you are and what you're doing. And we'll come to the subject in a minute, but just to let everyone know your own background and position. Marion, perhaps you can start.
Yes, thanks, Jeff. Great to be here today to discuss the topic, Amanda. So my name is Marion Murphy, and I am Managing Director at Malin Technology. We're an Irish-based SME delivering geospatial and EO services to predominantly local and central government bodies. Next year will mark my 30th anniversary of being a member of the geo industry and working in the geo industry, which has come as a bit of a shock to me because it feels like it doesn't feel that long. My background is actually electronic engineering, and I entered the world of GIS by accident rather than by design. But I guess it's turned out pretty well, and it's been probably a better fit for me. And I have completely enjoyed it, and I wouldn't be here today if I didn't. For me, instead of being purely technical role, I've been involved in project management, quality management, business development, and now in more strategic direction of the business. So with that said, I'm also involved in other organizations and with various other hats on industry groups such as EARSC and EOcafe, which is the European umbrella organization for geographic information, and particularly the Women in GI focus group, which is a networking group where we aim to promote careers for women in the wider geospatial industry and, really promote a career in GI and EO to undergrads and schools and through other initiatives. So that's been very rewarding, I have to say, rewarding part of the industry. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, Jeff.
Okay. Thanks. I'll ask you to talk a little bit more about you again in a minute. But Amanda, tell us about yourself. This is the first time we've met, so.
Yeah. Hi everybody. My name is Amanda. I am the MD and founder of Halo Resourcing. We're a Milton Keynes-based recruitment agency that nationally recruit for multitude of commercial roles and also into the GIS and geospatial industry. We're coming into our 8th year as a company now, and my background kind of started off in banking. Strangely, I worked for the Bank of England for quite a number of years, and then moved into sales, which was from a recruitment perspective quite an odd step. And then from sales, I moved into recruitment and definitely sort of fell into that. had my second child, and then was put into the recruitment HR team at a company I was working for, and then decided to, when I was having my third, to go it alone and set up Halo. We really quickly grew into kind of a local, you know, a local commercial agency, the go-to agency in Milton Keynes. But I always wanted a little bit more than just commercial recruitment. As well as administrators do fascinate me, not perhaps as much as people from the STEM sector. So I slowly started to get into sort of GIS and geospatial roles. We now recruit for tens and tens of companies across the UK, nationally and locally. Anything from sort of geospatial processors, GIS analysts, you know, on-site staff, offshore, you know, you name it. I can learn it, and it's actually been a really steep learning curve the last kind of 4 years whilst I've been in this industry, but one that I've absolutely adored, because I think I feel quite passionate about the industry myself, and it's really lovely speaking to candidates who have a real love for a particular sector and what they do, and that's quite clear, I think, throughout this sector. So yeah, so I just, you know, I really love helping people into roles they love. I've got a really keen interest in recruitment as a wider kind of subject, and you know, the bars that company have in trying to find the right staff and retain the right staff, and what candidates kind of want or need at any time. And I think since COVID, we've seen a huge change in the industry across the board. So yeah, I just like to kind of keep my finger on the pulse, and it's really interesting to be here today and kind of learn as well from Marion and yourself as to, you know, it's a bit of a learning curve for myself as well.
So I think you're doubly qualified to talk both
yeah.
recruiting for Halo and for the other lessons that you learned recruiting for others. How big is Halo now?
So we are a team of 9 currently. We are now all completely remote, which is something I'll probably touch on later. We had nice shiny new offices which nobody wanted to attend for quite some time.
There's a number of people like that problem.
Yeah. One of our ladies works in France. Another guy lives quite far up north. A few of us are local, and we meet up a couple of times a week. But we're mainly sort of consultants, resources. We have a dedicated sort of ops HR lady and a marketing manager who's superb.
Okay. A lot of things that come out of that. I mean, is it an advantage being small?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We had plans to really scale at one point, but I think, you know, like any company, we had a real difficulty in finding skilled consultants, even though I am in recruitment, and I think I run Halo with my business partner, and we're both hugely passionate about it. And so we do a lot of business development. We really have aspects, you know, or interest in all areas of the business. So I think it's finding somebody that has that drive for us has been the hardest thing. So yeah, I mean, whilst we've got plans to kind of scale further, it's about finding the right people for the team, isn't it? And so many elements, so many complexities.
What we'll be talking about, how to find the right person. And Marion, how big is Malon now?
We have about 120 staff.
Okay.
Predominantly, you know, GIS and EO roles. Our EO team is the smallest of the teams, 10. But we have a software development team. We have quite a large geospatial team with various roles in that. So yeah,
you've gone through a couple of the sort of growth points, the pinch points in growing the company.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we find through our survey, the survey that we do annually for the EO sector, that, you know, a large number of companies report having problems with recruitment, which is why we wanted to talk about it today. 70%, 77%, in fact, report this problem, and it seems it's not just a feature of the sector, of course. Because I think other sectors, we know a lot of different sectors have problems in recruiting, but I think it's exacerbated in our sector by a number of peculiarities that we'll come on and talk about. They're peculiarities, I suppose. Factors is a better word than peculiarities. Sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? And of course, we're operating in the STEM sector with technologies and competing with other technology sectors, some of which are more attractive to young people coming into the business. So we're fighting that, even though spaces itself is of course quite an attractive sell. But often more, I suspect, more upstream than downstream where we're operating. But you can correct me on that. And we see, the problem not just to attract the talent into the business, but also to retain it against these competitive pressures. Come on to some of the special factors in a bit. Maybe we can chew around that. But I also wanted just to right at the start here, because a lot of people won't be familiar with EARSC, I don't think. EARSC has been a member of EARSC for many years. In fact, since it started, we were approached when EARSC was first started, and it's been active now for 25 years, I guess. So maybe we could start by you just explain a little to the people here about EARSC, what EARSC is doing, and the role of the working group that you're chairing, which I think is a very important activity.
Yeah, well, as you said, EARSC has been around for quite a number of years. I mean, we are members for probably just less than 10 years, but we were also part of the members. So with EARSC, there's quite a lot of, say, associations or groups that are members. So they could, so national associations, should I say, are that are members of EARSC. So they're really representing their own members. So there's members that are direct industry, whether it's academic, so a number of universities, and then industry groups, I suppose. So it spans quite a lot of organizations within the industry across Europe. So there's new members each year as well. So it's growing. I suppose really the mandate for it is to represent geospatial interests, groups, commercial and otherwise. And there's a number of policy groups that are working around different challenges and aspects and creating policy papers. So, for example, there's a Green Deal. There's a group on Green Deal, digital twins, and that area, SDI goals, and there's the women in geospatial as well. So each one of those groups, I suppose, has a different strategy and a different, I suppose, aspect that they're looking at in terms of what their outcome is, and that may be engaging with policymakers, whether it's JRC or whether it's Commission and that kind of thing, and putting our perspective forward, perspective of the geospatial community. So I suppose within that, then, I mean, I became involved with the Women in Geospatial group a few years back. Then pandemic hit as well, so that provided challenges, but in other ways it provided opportunities because we went kind of digital there, and it meant that there was plenty of opportunity to engage in digital events during that time and just put forward what we were looking at. So really our main aim is we're committed to the empowerment of everyone within the community, the geospatial industry, but to enable them to accomplish their career goals and their personal goals. So it's a group that's open to everyone and anyone, preferably for networking for starters. And then we have a number of initiatives that we would like to achieve over the coming years. So I suppose there's a central EARSC group, and then from that, there has been a number of national initiatives that have started up. So there's one in Italy, Spain, and we've one local one here in Ireland as well, national chapter that was started just towards the end of 2023. I'm involved in that, and it's been fantastic. I mean, I can't promote it enough in terms of you know, how nice it is to discuss aspects of our industry with each other and come up with, you know, initiatives like, for example, whether it's an outreach initiative, and we've plans to do that. We've actually plans to do national our industry survey in Ireland, because there just is no information available, not just even like no information available in general, never mind, you know, gender-based. And we're hoping to roll that out to other initiatives. We're also hoping, or we have plans this year to expand that out to different territories as well, because the collective is great. It creates a community spirit. So at the moment we have, you know, Earth observation webinar series on the go, and you know, things like that, resources. We're also planning to build resources, but we are only, the Irish one in particular chapter has only started recently, so we're trying to build on that now, and you know, be able to kind of span it out over all of the member groups as well. So yeah, it's very worthwhile.
You've always had a very enthusiastic Irish chapter through Bruce, but
that's right, yeah, through our local
on his own, I think,
yeah. And Bruce is involved. He's involved with
yeah,
absolutely.
I haven't seen him for some time, but yeah, you have my regards. So I mean, you're a broad geospatial company with an EO section is what I was trying to say. When you're trying to, as you've grown, how have you gone about looking for talent? Obviously, you've worked with Amanda, and
yes, we have
Amanda's view on that as well. But if you could just tell us what the process, how you found the easiness or the problems of attracting the right people.
Yes, I suppose, you know, as our team has developed, you know, we have really started to hone in terms of our strategy and what kind of group or team we want, you know, looking at gaps and looking at potential for new members and what they will bring to the team. So I think, you know, in the industry in general, I don't think anyone would probably disagree, but it really is has been quite a difficult task. You know, you have like we've actually just been through a recruitment exercise with Amanda there recently, and we've been successful, which is fantastic. But it has been quite a protracted experience, you know, in comparison to maybe the geo sector. It really is. It's more of a longer recruitment period for the EO team. So really, I'd say there's a number of factors or approaches that you need to, or various things you need to navigate through, and they're internal and external factors. And obviously the external one is mostly to do with the talent pool and the availability.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's an emerging industry in terms of there's always some change, there's always, you know, technical advances and all that. You can't stay still. Your team, looking at what you need in your team, will continue to change. So I suppose our approach at the moment is sort of a two-phase in terms of deciding how many people within the team that we develop, so upskill and reskill within the team. You know, is there anybody within our geospatial team that really wants to move to EO? We do that. But then there is the reality of you just have to go to the market, and that pool for specific skills, particularly emerging tech or programming, Python, or all those things, you know, there's an ease or a difficulty depending on what you're looking for. Another factor there would be the business model you have. Like, has your organization the ability to look beyond your own vicinity into, can you consider remote working from different regions? We are restricted in that because we have more of an onshore requirement, purely because of our customer base and security issues and considerations that they have. So, you know, we maybe more organizations may have that they consider. There are other considerations there as well in terms of time zones and taxes and regional laws and you know, does the role require customer facing in person, and those type of things. So there's a whole load of things there to consider, and it'll depend. But really the talent pool and the availability there is one of the key ones. You know, there's also, because it's so restricted, you have market competition, so that is driving up expectations. Perfectly normal. That's what happens. Scarcity of supply. So there is a high level of competition there for certain skills, and this can really make it challenging to attract talent. Or like that, it can protract the process. So is there, basically, I suppose, as an organization within the industry, have you got an opportunity to differentiate yourself from one of your competitors or from other competition within the sector? Is there an area that you can look, you know, are there certain skills that, you know, that can be applied from maybe roles that are slightly outside the EO specific industry sector, you know? So there's things like that.
Amanda, does that pattern seem familiar to you? And is that sort of common to other people that you're recruiting for?
Absolutely. I think there's a real skill shortage at the moment, you know, across the board. And I think since COVID, that has really been kind of highlighted. You know, in recruiting any sort of highly skilled individuals, particularly with like the emergence of like renewable energy and sectors like that. I think it's kind of sucked up a lot of the resource within certain areas. So I think what I mainly tell like any of my clients is really think about why a candidate would want to work for you. You know, it used to be that a job was a job and there was a salary and there was the perks and benefits, and that was that. But it's so much more of a candidate driven market now, because there are so few individuals for so many more roles, that candidates are now kind of leading the way in terms of kind of dictating, like Marion said, almost in terms of kind of what they want from a role, which is fantastic from a candidate perspective, of course, but not so great for the employer. What I think employers need to do is really get their kind of employee value proposition in place, and try to be as flexible as possible around that, insofar as, you know, as Marion said, as much as you can, because, you know, if you do have the ability to completely work remotely, that opens up the talent pool, you know, quite significantly, as opposed to, you know, having to be regional or attend an office a couple of days a week, you know, which is really narrowing down your options. If you can offer flexi time to employees for, you know, childcare or any outside commitments, a lot of clients now are looking at doing sort of core hours, 10 till 3 or, you know, or something like that, and then, you know, flex around that. And, you know, and then looking at kind of your perks and benefits package as well, because I think a lot of the old kind of stereotypical perks and benefits that used to be on job adverts, such as free fruit in the office, people just aren't interested in that anymore. You know, they don't want to know about free parking. They're not interested in anything like that. They want to know about your ethos, your culture, your vision, what progression and growth the company are looking to take, and personally how they can be part of that as a bigger picture. You know, sort of talking salary and location is just not enough anymore to secure the talent that we're talking about. And
certainly flexible working must be
yeah, it's a real big part. Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost impossible for jobs now to be purely physically and
across the board we're finding that companies that are sort of demanding that people are in the office 5 days a week, and I know that some jobs, you know, they necessitate that has to be the case, but there are lots of roles where that doesn't necessarily need to be the case, and a lot of people have got used to hybrid working patterns now from COVID, and they're quite comfortable and happy at home, and that they seem to be the roles that are really struggling to kind of get any traction at all in terms of applications or interest. It's a conversation I have with people quite often, even when I recruit into so I do quite a lot of rec to rec as well, or recruit for recruiters, and they say, well, I don't want to go and, in the office 5 days a week, because we've got a hybrid model now, and salary doesn't tend to pip that. They tend to be choosing the flexible working options over the higher salary banding, just for that work-life balance, I think, that we've become more accustomed to.
I mean, that was an enormous advantage to us at the time of COVID, when we were all confined. Suddenly we found people could work from home much more easily than perhaps we had anticipated. But clearly that has persisted, and that has been a big driver in the picture.
And I think it can come with its it does come with its cons. For anybody that's kind of new to an industry or new to a company, do they get the onboarding? Do they understand the company? Do they understand the product essentially, or what, as well as they would do if they were in the office 5 days a week? But I do think if the training and the onboarding and the first 3 to 6 months is done correctly, then people, there's no reason why lots of roles can't be even more efficient, really, from on a hybrid or fully remote pattern, I think.
Mario, just a very quick question, because I want to lead on to something else. But Manon, is it producing mainly bespoke products, or is it a service-based organization?
Well, we're service-based, really.
Okay.
I mean, we provide, in the terms of the EO side of things, we're really service-based. We will, like, for a lot of our customers are, as I mentioned, central government, so they're kind of early adopters of technology, and the advantage of having EO services, and we support their strategy there, in terms of they don't always have the expertise on in-house. Some of them are bringing them on board, all right, but they don't always have them in-house, and we can kind of provide the expertise there. So it's a variety of services, and everything from
so you're benefiting from that outsourcing of services, because I mean, again, one of the things that I think is a little bit special to the sector. There are a lot of bespoke services, bespoke products, but also the services which demand a team that's agile. You're not necessarily looking for the same mix of skills from one year to the next, and so you're either having to adapt people, or outsource those for those particular skills, or look to what we're talking about today, bring those skills into the company. And that really, I think, is quite a challenge for the sector, this mix of skills that's required. How do you react to that?
Well, for us, it definitely is a mix. I mean, you've all sorts of things to consider. How you react to it would be part of, part of your overall planning, in terms of how do you deliver flexibility to customers? How do you ensure that, for example, if a key member of your team leaves tomorrow, you have succession planning. So we are constantly looking at the team, what skills we have, how can knowledge transfer help there within the team, how, we don't want to have everybody having identical skills. We need to have a good mix, so that, and then like that, that there is flexibility to move, and you're not, to move between them, and that that a customer isn't going to suffer because somebody's moved out. Also, even our current resource recruitment drive was more about ensuring succession and mix of skills than adding, because somebody had left, nobody had left the team. So there's all sorts of things at play there. And I suppose it's such a changing market that will dictate a lot of what happens, and the fact that you can't get people quite easily, so I mean,
so you both talked about skills shortages generally. Why do you think it is there is a skills shortage? Is it real? Is it localized? Why is there a shortage of skills for our sector?
Well, I suppose there's been change. It's like, for us, the EO services is, it's starting to develop sort of at a quicker pace. For a long time, we had a smaller team where we'd limited number of customers, but now you can see it's opening up more the commercialization side of things. So, I mean, I think you know, it's like it's having a team that has the commercial awareness as well, and not just the academic background and experience. So for that side of things, I suppose there's less capacity in terms of the market awareness and that sort of experience, you know, so, and more from the academic side, you know.
So for me, I think I would say there's been quite a rise in sort of tech developments of late, and these roles do require sort of specialist degrees or some sort of advanced training, and because there's more jobs than probably people, you know, we are seeing quite a lot of grads come through. I think there was
but not enough, apparently.
I don't know. I don't think so. And like Marion says, a lot of roles do determine or do require a certain element of commercial experience. So the grads tend to take on sort of quite junior roles and upskill, and you're talking sort of 2 to 5 years until they're in a position to take up the type of roles that, you know, that I think we do have a skill shortage for.
But that is important too, that aspect of it. I mean, that would be something we, you know, we have an internal CPD course where our current team will help develop, you know, as I said earlier, anybody who's interested in moving more towards the EO side of things. So, you know, that involves self-learning, and you know, there's various aspects that we have drawn out that are important, and that was involving very much came from the EO team as well, you know, and their commitment to the industry and what they see, and what kind of skills that they know they would have maybe benefited from earlier on in their career. So it really is a case of, yeah, but as Amanda said, that's couple of years, 2 to 3 years, depending, you know, commitment, and you can't always wait that long. So, but I think that means that really the industry needs to look at multiple aspects and approaches to talent and developing and retaining, you know.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the some of the you know, particular areas of the UK will have more of a skill shortage than others, because it does purely rely on candidates who want to relocate, because they won't have studied anywhere near the area. So that's another sort of consideration as well. I do have pockets of the UK which do have a lot more grads, for example, or a lot more people who have settled after university, and are sort of more commercially experienced, but then there's areas where it would be relocation only, and that's another entire conversation you have to have with a candidate, and finding a candidate that is willing to relocate or wants to relocate sometimes isn't as easy as you think when they've got a bit of commercial experience, because they tend to have bought a house or have settled somewhere, maybe have children. It's not just kind of relocation after university.
That's where your remote, you know,
yeah, that's where the remote kind of really comes in. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So the business model affects things. You've talked about onboarding, and you've talked about sort of imagination in the packages that are being offered. What else can companies do to do this, to overcome the issue of recruitment? What do you advise your clients, Amanda?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it's difficult, because it almost feels like sometimes you're at war for the best talent, and I think it's a frustration that a lot of companies or a lot of employers do have, particularly in something as specific as EO. So yeah, I mean, obviously, just salary benchmarking, just ensuring that you are, you know, within you know, the remit of what that role is paying. And I do find that salaries have gone up over the last sort of 4 or 5 years since COVID. Benefits package, again, be flexible with it. You know, I think it was something like 12% of people have healthcare as part of their package, but 29% of people would see that as, you know, a really valuable advantage to their you know, their package. lots of companies have started to look at 4-day weeks, which
Yeah.
isn't right for everybody. It's definitely not right in my industry, which is quite target driven. But they are doing sort of condensed weeks across the 4 days. And then, yeah, as I say, flexi time. And then it's all about kind of promoting your company, your ethos, your culture. And just, I suppose, including the candidate as part of those growth plans, I think, so that they feel like, they're contributing to a bigger picture is really a big part for a lot of candidates that I speak to. They're not just doing a job, they're part of something.
And that's certainly easier in a smaller company, because a smaller team is it's easier to communicate around. I don't know if that's an issue that you've faced, Marion. If you've grown.
Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, it's something we're really aware of. We're constantly working on. I mean, it's not something you can kind of do, oh, I have a policy on that. That is not it at all. I mean, as Amanda said there, there's obviously the well-being and continuously talking about that, and while it's great to have your employee assistant EAPs programs, but there's also the communication side there, and ensuring that everybody is aware of it, ensuring that people know how to access, ensuring that might seem kind of obvious, but it isn't always, how to access it, what it means, knowing that there's confidentiality, we don't find out anything, all just actually spelling it out and as well, and saying this is what it is. But also there's a social corporate responsibility. People are very much want to try and align their own values with they want their own values to be, or the company to align with their values, and that can including things like environmental policies, but giving back to communities, but not just talking about it, showing that you're doing it, getting them involved, and as I said, communication, but two-way. What can we do? We're doing this. Is this good enough? How would you feel about X, Y, and Z? And lifelong learning, CPD, having opportunities there for people to go to events, highlighting your heroes within your team, and as well, and like that, showing, having even the diversity side of things, or the gender diversity, equality, inclusion, having a diverse team, showing what that means in terms of that there is career opportunities available for women, for example, having women involved in decision making, part of things, because it really does, like, I can't overestimate or overemphasize how important it is to have a collective and have open dialogue. And look, I'm not saying that we're perfect at that, but we are looking at it continuously. It's continuous.
The important thing is to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that has become much more difficult with remote working, with the COVID.
Yeah,
what measures have you put in place, or you're aware of others putting in place, Amanda, that help to sort of help in this facet of communication? I mean, I've always been a great believer in the coffee machine and the chat around the coffee machine, and I always encouraged it a great deal. We used to have morning prayers as well, to just so that everyone's sort of starting on the same page. But we at the start of the COVID, we even continued doing that, but remotely. What measures have you put in place to try to address that?
So personally, as a company, we meet every morning, 9 a.m. Some of us
virtually, because you said everyone is virtually.
On the Teams, and we spend 5-10 minutes, talking about everything from the weather to somebody's dog to, what the cat did last night. We'll then go on to sort of more business specific things, so new roles, new clients, and we just really try to share as much information as we can on morning meetings. Sometimes they can take sort of 30-35 minutes, and I think it's really important not to rush that, because like you say, you would spend that 15 minutes talking around the coffee machine, or sat in the lunchroom. We meet up every couple of weeks in person, and we spend the day together working on projects or looking at different things. We have obviously regular one-to-ones, and I think it's just the little things for us that we do as a company. So we remember on people's anniversaries, we send them flowers or a bottle of gin or whatever and a card. So birthdays as well, we make quite a big deal of birthdays in the team. And I think it's just that constant kind of interaction to just check in on people, really. I know it's really difficult in a bigger team, but, you know, with team managers, just checking in on people, I think daily, just to check, you know, are you happy? Is there anything I can help with? Do you need support? What training can we offer you? How do you feel you're developing? Do you want to spend some time one-to-one? Because, you know, remote working isn't for everybody. Fully remote, it's absolutely not for everybody, and I think it's really important to look after people's mental health as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just the little things, really.
I do think balanced teams help in that respect as well. So, you know, the different dimensions of balance, but you know, trying to at least respect that. Before you comment, Mariel, if anyone wants to add a comment or indeed to ask a question, of course, but if it's more a question of asking a comment, again, please, if you can put that into the chat so that I can ask you to come in and join us. Marion, sorry, your perspective.
Yeah, like, I mean, I really echo what Amanda said there. You know, I mean, we are geographically spread throughout the island of Ireland, so it's kind of, you know, it could be somebody could be quite near you down the road, but it could also be 400 kilometers or whatever away, 300. So yeah, there's always the challenge there but we try to have regular meetups between teams and things like that, you know. Also, you know, even during, you know, the Mental Health Awareness Week, we would have had speakers in to talk virtually, I know, but, you know, speakers in to talk about those type of things. Or we have regular, you know, we still have the old favorite through pandemic of, you know, quizzes and bingos and everything else.
Yeah,
and they're really popular.
Yeah, they are great.
Popular.
Yeah.
And delighted to still have them. You know, there's always some sort of camaraderie or discussions around that. But yeah, and teams meet to discuss things. And you're hoping as well that, you know, when you're onboarding staff, we have quite a long process there, you know, in terms of quite a fairly hefty checklist of things to go through, because you know, I suppose being remote, it's not quite the same as having chats over break time all the time and kind of getting information that way. So we really have to make sure information goes, and we have bulletins and various things and alerts for various things. But yeah, it's trying to be as imaginative as you can as well, and ensuring that information makes its way is always
just ensuring the information's is delivered to everybody, but that also that everybody feels like their voice can be heard, even if they're remote.
Well, we would fairly regularly, you know, send surveys on various things. I mean, I am aware I don't want to be death by survey either, do you know what I mean? But try and keep them short and sweet and get feedback. And you know, it still is a good method to get feedback from staff on whether it's initiatives that we have put in place or things we hope to do, or just getting it kind of or like that, you know, not making assumptions about remote working or hybrid or anything else, and just asking and, you know, seeing what people are, and generally people are still really happy with it, you know. And it's hard to have, I think that it's hard to have you know, I can see why the organizations have kind of gone down a very more formal hybrid, as in, you know, you need to be in an office Monday and Tuesday, for example, and less of an informal, because I think that, you know, having one or two in an office and then having everyone else at home, and it, you know, it's hard to keep the
camaraderie going.
Yeah, exactly. So we're pretty much remote, apart from people who need to be there. Yeah.
So we had Milva Carbonaro on the call until recently, but Milva's left, as Milva was running the EO project, which was more about skills than about recruitment. But we talked earlier about sort of lack of skills in the sector. Are there any what's happening to change this? What are the trends good? Are they bad? Are you seeing more people coming in? Are you seeing people moving away and taking up other more exciting? I shouldn't say that. Definitely not more exciting.
Well, in fairness, we're being real here. There is often more exciting in terms of exciting is depending on the individual,
Yeah.
so it's hard to. But yeah, I mean, I think that actually I'd be very interested in what Amanda thinks about the, retention policies and retention strategies, should I say, more than policies. I think, for us as an organization, my experience, we had quite a long period of time there, pre-pandemic, where people stayed for a number of years, which was totally down to, as well, like things like opportunities for moving on. There was moratorium unemployment in some sectors. There was, like we're coming out of austerity times, et cetera, and people really just wanted to hold on to the fact that they had a permanent role and they were happy with that, et cetera. And then other things came into play, and the whole environment opened up as well. So I mean, at the moment, that's where we are, as far as I can see. We're in a position where, I would be very interested in why people are leaving. We have like an offboarding kind of exit interview with people as well. And, it's definitely, I'm always looking for, is there something we can improve, and what have we got? What do we need to have? And it's never really, the vast majority is always extremely positive. And the reason for leaving is often for travel, as I say, they're completely changing the direction of their career, maybe moving, whether it's travel just as in, around the great around the world trip and being able to enjoy that, or if it's maybe a partner is moving away, or there's all sorts of reasons, or a peer group is moving and they want to move with them, or move into a completely different sector, or a little bit sideways, to a competitor, which is fine too, because of their area of expertise is slightly different and they want just a bit more experience. So I think even, with the best retention strategies and everything in place, you're still, what I'm trying to get to is the expectations and how long you can retain staff, I think is diminished. I think that would be unrealistic.
Yeah, I do see that point, but I do think also I'm speaking to quite a lot of people who aren't very who are quite reluctant still to leave a role that they've been in since COVID. I think that kind of idea that if they were kept on through COVID and managed to keep their role secure, or were furloughed, there is still quite a lot of loyalty, I think, around. And I think, again, that does contribute to why it might be quite hard for companies to attract staff with quite a lot of commercial experience, because I think people are quite reluctant to almost still rock the boat. I have seen that start to change in the last few months, but I think even last year there's still sort of murmurs of COVID coming back and potential, what might happen, in the next 6 to 12 months, and economy wise, people were feeling a little bit unsure about the stability overall. And I think if you do have these things in place, if you have got a competitive salary, if you have got a good benefits package, if you do offer the flexi working, and you've got a nice culture, it's quite hard to tempt somebody into looking at a new role. And I think there is generally quite a lot of contentment at the moment, and I'm finding that finding qualified, experienced staff is becoming harder and harder, because I think they're getting approached more as well, because there are more roles available. Particularly on LinkedIn. You message someone on LinkedIn, you're probably the fifth person with a certain skill set they've had a message from that month. Why would your approach be any different to anybody else's? So that aspect, is becoming is still quite difficult, I think.
And other social media, they play a role?
Not for us. I don't really even use LinkedIn for recruitment, if I'm honest. I just don't find it really works.
Okay.
I think you find your passive job seekers and they're maybe interested and maybe not, and maybe might go along to the interview and maybe get a counter offer and take it to their current employer for a pay rise. That's, you know, I think I prefer to kind of try to deal with people that are actively on job boards, actively seeking, you know, actively looking for work, rather than kind of passively one eye open.
Okay. We talked a little bit about skills at last year's Expandio, and one of the guys who interviewed is on the call, Leandros. I don't know, Leandros, do you have any further any perspective on what we've been discussing?
Hello, thank you for your question. Actually, the last point was very interesting for me, because we recruit for Earth observation, actually for the main organizations in space, and that was one of my questions, because we are heavily relying on LinkedIn and sourcing to find the right candidates, because we are looking more or less on the same pool, all of us, all the let's say space or Earth observation oriented countries.
Yeah.
What do you do when you are not able to find someone, if you're not relying on sourcing online? And if you have this,
that's a very good question. I think Marion's role was open with us quite some time for the EO. Just keep going. So we use a multitude of job boards. I just personally, I don't tend to rely on LinkedIn. So any of the job boards, kind of active or passive candidates on there, and we do like a lot of we do have a big candidate pool ourselves, which we've kind of collated over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So it's a case of kind of going out to those as well. But yeah, I think.
But then I assume you're more flexible with time, right? So I mean, you can have like a bit more time to either onboard someone or train someone, or you know, you can get more time on finding someone.
Yeah, I mean, it takes as long as it takes, and I think sometimes the harder the skill set is to find, the longer the search is, and it's about kind of understanding that from a client perspective, is that you can't magic people out of thin air, and if you did, they probably weren't very invested anyway. It can be a long process.
Yeah, I think our last one with Amanda was like, I think we kind of started maybe in October and
closed up for Christmas.
Closed up for Christmas and then revisited it in the new year.
Yeah, and I worked on that every day. Every single day. I won't be beaten. There's one thing I don't give up.
No, definitely not.
Resilience is my middle name.
Yeah. But we were successful in the end. But like that, if that was a role where somebody had left a role and we were trying to replace, you wouldn't even have any, you know, it would be harder to, I suppose you may not have that length of time. But,
yes, of course. Yeah. I understand that sometimes the time constraints, you know, are critical, you know, to business needs. And so, you know, sometimes you'll just hit the jackpot.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's not that easy, which is why nobody wants to be a recruiter, basically. That's why I'm really great.
I have an objection. Not sure about who wants to be a recruiter, because I love it.
I'm actually only 17. I'm joking.
Okay.
I can't say that. I just said I'm 30 years in the business.
So. My job is
definitely not an easy job. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you get involved with graduates and sort of new graduates and graduate recruitment, maybe at both levels, different levels of graduate?
Yeah, I love graduates. I absolutely adore recruiting for graduates.
Yeah. So you maintain links with certain universities.
Yes.
And
we would do that as well. As an organization, we would have quite a few links as well. You know.
Does that extend to sort of influencing the particular training and the skill set, or is it purely?
I try my best.
Yeah. Okay.
No, in fairness, I have been involved with one course recently. It was a new one, and as part of the kind of, I suppose, the industry side. So we got a great opportunity there with the university to discuss the industry needs, our organization and a couple of others as well. And so, yeah, I mean, it was great to be able to have that opportunity, but also then, you know, to be able to then afterwards, we were invited back, and some of the other organizations as well, to give guest lectures on what's actually happening in the industry. So it's great to have the link, you know, and be involved.
And I think that's just amazing as well, to kind of then to speak to grads, or, you know, people that are going through their course about the potential roles that are available out there. It's just raising awareness for, you know, what you do and why.
Yeah.
And that's,
you have to get out there, and
quite valuable in itself, isn't it, really?
Get out there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the end. Wolfhard put a comment in right at the beginning of our conversation. I don't know if he wants to add to that or to comment.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Jeff, and thank you both Marion and Amanda for this very interesting insight, because frankly, we are at the brink of facing the same problem, currently trying to get a small number of Canadian and South African companies to relocate and form a joint venture in Europe, which means we have to find staff, which will become very difficult, as I can see. At the same time, and that would be actually my solution and my question to you, how about looking into other disciplines? When Earth observation and the whole geospatial sector started, I mentioned GAF and my comment here, GAF AG in Munich was started by a geologist, and very successfully. So when we all started in those sectors, we came from totally different disciplines: geosciences, life sciences, forestry, and we used remote sensing and then GIS technology at the beginning only as a tool, which then grew into its own discipline. But at the same time, what I find with companies we are consulting from my little firm is that whenever they hit the EO or geospatial sector, especially the EO sector, all the new space companies, they just focus on electrical engineers, very, very often space systems engineers. And then they believe, well, we don't need the domain expert because it's all big data analytics. And then they complain that they don't find talent. Now, if you look outside our field and go back to where we started, could that be a solution to the problem? Looking into agricultural biologists, looking into forest scientists, because they also cover those domains that we are addressing as a service provider. That's my question.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, because like even, you know, within the general geospatial sector, I mean, we have staff that come from all angles, you know, purely because, but yet have, say, environmental science, you know, geology, all sorts of areas. And like, you know, they're all very familiar with GIS concepts and, you know, the whole, you know, have worked on projects that have aspects of that. So, you know, so yes, I think, you know, it's a case of having to, even within the EO team, look at people who maybe don't have as much pure EO experience, but are coders, programmers, and are used to dealing with the data, and or, you know, have formed part of the chain somewhere else, you know, and that they could actually equally integrate in. And like that also provides them with an opportunity to learn more in terms of, you know, the value of EO, where it sits, how it's compiled, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think there's definitely value there. I mean, we don't all have to be exactly the same, and your team doesn't have to be exactly the same, and that only creates limiting capacity there as well. Like people are limited by all thinking the same way. So yeah, I agree. I think it's the way to go.
Way back in the days when I was an engineer and I was a radar systems engineer, we always used to find that the best recruits were astronomers.
There you go.
They had a real mathematical skill, and so for analyzing, they were really excellent. So that was my first point of departure. But different type of skills to today.
Yeah. If I may add at this point, I mean, radar systems engineering definitely, Jeff, quote me wrong, but it definitely wasn't a field where you had a high ratio of female students at
That's
university
true.
or later in the sector. So the question, of course,
Did
then
have
is,
one very good one.
yeah, but exactly. I started out personally. I started out in life sciences. That's my first degree, and then I added geosciences, and it was amazing. In life sciences, we had at least 50-50. Sometimes we had more female students and PhD candidates as male. And then I switched over to geosciences, and it was the exact opposite. So how do we attract more women to these fields? Because if we have only 20% women in one company, we're missing out on 80% of the talent. So that could solve that problem right away.
Oh yeah, I mean, or even the having the women within the organization just don't assume everything. Ensure that they are involved in all of the decision making and involved in managerial roles, etc., and senior leadership roles, because it really does bring a different side of things to your organization, and you can't just ignore part of your workforce or assume that everybody has the same, needs the same things, has the same values, etc. So yeah, I think there's an awful lot of work to do. I mean, it's very aligned with STEM, and participation of girls in particular, schools. And it comes in Ireland, it comes to sort of, I was surprised at this because I did read something quite recently. And I mean, back when I finished secondary school, which is, I feel like 100 years ago now, I mean, the statistics haven't really changed in terms of how many women will, or how many girls in particular, take STEM subjects, apart from maths and biology, not including those, at a senior level. So, or the leaving cert or the A level or whatever it is you have at high school. So there's really, the statistics are still quite low, and it's the perception that it's really is the perception that it's not for them. And then you have the sort of the collective peer perception, etc. And really, there's no issue in terms of ability. There's no issue in terms of careers. We can see there's plenty of careers, and the more we have, the better it is for everybody. So it is down to the grassroots and getting that promotion of but like that, it's that's why with the Women in Geospatial group, we would like to be able to demonstrate that, and highlight the amount of careers there are, how women, in the industry have careers and can progress and provide a lot of visibility, because the more visibility you have, the better.
How do you do that? Where do you get to the to the candidates, the potential candidates?
Well, there's actually quite a few initiatives out there. Well, in Ireland, there's one or two in particular that I know of, and like that, you'd be surprised the amount of funding that's available for this kind of thing. Whether it's funding to create initiatives for schools. So there's one in particular that's through one of the universities that is already funded, etc. And there's a number of industry or organizations that are affiliated with it, and we have one candidate from our own team that has enrolled in that, and it's very good. It's basically it uses it's a very structured piece for specific, targeted at secondary school level, and kind of the transition year, so coming into senior cycle. And it really is, it's taking technology and the I suppose EO satellite imagery and how that works, and it creates a sort of, I suppose, a series of exercises for them to run through. And it's designed that it's delivered by a geo mentor, so it's somebody within the geo sector. So you can use that kind of model and translate it into women in the area, or target that side of things, and try and increase the awareness of STEM. But it's the usual thing of, if you can't see it, you can't be it, and all those things. So it really is about showing the opportunities, but also, like, I suppose, like as we were just saying there, the geo field, you know, it is really a case of, you know, there's also undergrads to target, because like life sciences, etc., and targeting undergrads so they know that there's a postgrad or a master's in this area that they can undertake if they wish to, or a PhD, etc. So there's so as well as that, with the girls and schools, I think career guidance has a lot to do there. So maybe there's.
Okay, well, let's hope that encourages everyone here to get out there. I'm going to draw it to a close now. We still have an informal continuation, so if anyone wants to pitch in, they still can. But for the moment, I'm going to close this sort of informal part of the EOcafe. Thank you very much, Marion and Amanda, for joining me for this conversation. I think it's been well appreciated, and hopefully there's a number of lessons there that people can take away. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So normal reminder, industry survey for any companies who are on the call who haven't yet filled in the survey, please do so. It really is important. And as you see, the links to the things like we've been talking today, the recruitment and the awareness of what are the issues in the sector, and we can take those to the policymakers and we can make it clear that things need to be done. So please respond to the industry survey if you haven't already. Have we got any more slides? There's Expandio coming up in the summer. Please join us in Expandio. We'll have 2.5 days of really interesting exchanges. So please come and please register for that. I don't think we've got a link here. So next time we're going to come back to the subject of artificial intelligence, which is growing in importance almost daily. Hearing some very interesting discussions around all the political agenda, so not in relation directly to our technology, and what we can see, what we may see later in the year. And I imagine a lot of people are sort of keeping an eye on what's happening there. But there is an AI Act which is being discussed. It's still in this discussion stage. But we want to have a look at what the implications might be for our sector. So we'll have two guests who are knowledgeable in this respect, Ingo Baumann and Matthias Lachenmann, both from BHO. So that's our EOcafe in 2 weeks' time, Thursday the 7th of March. And at that point, I just draw to a close. And if you want to join in, we turn the recording off at this stage. Anyone who wishes to just open up their microphone and say something, please feel free to do so. And just again, thank you, Marion and Amanda, for joining us.